We're bending up some aluminum lines for the air ride system. We're gonna go from this bag mount over here. We're gonna come down, follow the brake line that's down there, up and across the cross member, and then we're gonna stop right here in this corner. And I'm gonna do a quick disconnect there. This one will come down to that corner, quick disconnect, and then I'm going to do a straight piece of hard line all the way to the very back and under the bed, where I'll do some soft line up to the bed and into the toolbox where I'll have the air compressor and the tank and everything. The soft line will be there, just easy place to fix it there, and you can always keep some spare line and whatever with me. Yeah, gonna be doing a lot of hardline stuff. Take my time and then try to do it right. Show you what I got going here. It's my first time actually doing hard lines like this. I've done roll cages and stuff like that for cars, but never this aluminum tubing. It's fairly easy system with any tubing. Take your bender. Doesn't matter if it's new or old or whatever, but every time you get a new one you need to redo this step. But take you some scrap pieces and make some perfect 45s, 90s, 180s, whatever size bend you want. Mark which side you're cutting. This is going to be your reference mark to your die set or your bender, so you can always repeat exact same bend from that reference mark. And from there you can caulk it however you want, and then you would just level this side, caulk this side, and then make your bend. No matter what, you can repeat a bend when you do it this way. It's a lot easier. It'll save you a lot of material, a lot of headache. You can literally just set these pieces down in there and use your reference lines, measure the distance between them. Make both your reference lines with that distance, make your bends, and it will come out exactly like you measured it. Promise you. I've already done one side here. Let's show you what I got. So I've already done this one side. You can't get it all in one view, but done this one side, so it'll come from there, drop down and cross over, and then it's just going to repeat that to come up to this corner here. So yeah, as you can see, I'm talking about, I got reference mark here, reference mark here, and that's how I'm getting these repeated bends every single time. And I know it's going to line up. Might not be exact just because it's really hard to get in there, but it should be pretty darn close and at least usable. So you're not going to see it. It doesn't have to be perfectly lined up with everything. Like if you're doing fuel rails or something, fuel lines, they're all right next to each other. You want them nice and even and looks pretty. This really doesn't matter as long as it gets the job done, doesn't leak, and doesn't get pinched by something. So keeping it close to the frame rail here, keep it away from the engine, the oil pan and everything. Following the brake lines is a pretty safe route. Same with the fuel lines down the frame rail. Shouldn't be any heat or moving parts. All your exhaust can going down that way. Keeping it really close to this coil bucket here to keep it away from exhaust, because I'm going to have some turbos and stuff up in this corner. But another trick is to take some TIG wire and just make your bends. Really cheap piece of TIG wire, probably like 2 cents for one strand, and you can make your bends and make sure everything's gonna kind of line up with there. And now the diameter is a lot smaller, so it's gonna be harder to make up for that difference of diameter, but I'll give you a really good idea using TIG wire. Okay, so I just want to show you what I meant with the TIG wire. You can literally just use it. It's hard to get your radius to match your dies, so it makes it really hard, and also the diameter needs space on each side of it to get through there. So anyway, you can see I took this TIG wire and I just bent it, and I followed that contour all the way across. Now, if you take that same TIG wire and you lay it on my tube here, it's hard to get it to lay down. So it follows that tube almost exactly. Like I said, it's gonna be a little bit off because it moves and it's hard to get those radiuses right, but at least I know I'm within probably half an inch ballpark, quarter inch. Just quick reference. Make sure you're gonna work. It's also a good way to kind of visualize how lines are gonna run. Sometimes once you bend the line, you get it all in there, and you just realize that it's not gonna work, or there's a better way to do it. So there's a better routing or better way to do something, it's best just to go back and do it, and then you're wasting material, but it's worth it in the long run. So before I make this next bend, I'm just going to show you what I was talking about your little marker, your cheater pieces, whatever you want to call them. So I know my line goes roughly in here somewhere, right? And I want it to start coming back up on this side. About the same, right? So all I have to do is measure from this end to this end, and that'll tell me the distance, which in this case is 5.5 inches to that mark, and that's where I set my dies to start the bend, which bends here. And all I have to do is clock these the right way, and should come out pretty good. So we'll go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what it looks like. Alright, so we got our first mark there on the tubing, as you can see. Cheaters here. Alright, we got our first mark on the tubing. See it right here. So that's where this bend ends. And that's this piece here we just had on the frame. You see that line lines right up with the end of our tube there. So we're gonna measure from that line 5.5 inches down. We're just gonna make another line. So 5.5. We'll go 6.5 minus 1. Right there. So now we know we got exactly 5.5 inches in between each of those marks. And we go to bend this. All I have to do is make sure this is perfect 90 to the ground. When we go to bend this, it should be perfectly straight with this, that way they're not turned at all. But yeah, and then that'll give us that extra length in between the bends that'll match the actual cross member. Alright, so this is what I'm using for the reference mark, and that's the part that holds the tubing as you bend around it. So if you use that same reference every single time you use this die, it's going to be exactly the same every single time. So I just thought I'd show you that, the reference marks, how everything works to make your lines, and hopefully it helps you guys out a little. Also, so the orientation of your die needs to be parallel with the line that you're bending, or not, depending if you want that to kick off to one side or the other side. You need to measure that angle. So always start with a level surface, and then measure the degree in which you want your bend to be kicked to either side. That's how you get those off canter bends and everything to kick out around something or do whatever. So thought I'd throw that in there as well. Okay, so I made that second bend in the bottom piece anyway. So next bend, got it in there. Can't really tell, but it is turning out quite well. You can see how it's going to kick over and down. It is angled, so I'll leave back to go from here over, down, over, and then it's just going to end up right in there. So this next bend I'll probably just eyeball it in here. Doesn't really make a huge difference on this bend. Just kind of eyeball it with where I want it to start there and cut it over this way, and then cut it that way, and then terminate it. So I can do a bracket there to mount it so it's solid. You don't really want to eyeball it. I want it to be level with that side just because I can. So I measured from my end mark, just like the other side, all the way up to this line, equal as that side. And then I'm just going to slap my bender on there. And then got my focus, got my line, right? So I'm lining up that line with the end of my bender. Okay, so now it's ready to start bending from there, and it's going to bend around. You want to make sure you're bending the right way, otherwise your bend will be opposite of what you want. What I was saying about getting everything lined up. So if you level your tubing, see how the tubing's level, the dies are not level with the tubing to start making that bend around. So you're gonna eyeball it, or if you have a table, make it a lot easier to get it dead nuts perfect. But this is aluminum tubing. It's really easy to manipulate and bend around a little bit. Hopefully you can see that on camera. Yeah, those are pretty well lined up with where I want it to bend. Yeah, so from there, double check your little mark, and then you should know how far you're going to bend it. In our case, this bend is going to go 90 degrees. So 90 degrees, here we go. And it will spring back slightly. Aluminum doesn't so much as stainless or any of those spring steels. Yeah, so there we go. I will admit that I messed up on that last bend. It was not supposed to be a 90-degree bend. I got carried away trying to film it for you guys, but it's not the end of the world with this aluminum tubing. Now you can bend it back just like I have here. Be very careful not to kink it or work hard in it. If you bend it back and forth, it will crack it, will break it. You can see it's not perfect right there. There's a little dip, which is not a big deal to me because, like I said, you're not going to see it. If this was somewhere you could see it, I would consider redoing this whole piece. Yes, you're scrapping a lot of tube. You can save these long bits, even a bend in it. So it's not the end of the world. To have spare tubing is always nice, to make test pieces or do whatever you want. So in this case, I'm going to keep it. It didn't kink or anything. I'm not worried about it being work hardened or anything like that. So yeah, I'm going to run with it and go ahead and do my next bend on this side. There we go. All done. Got one clamp in. Do another clamp. Okay, that's going to do it for this video. We got all of our lines bent up. You guys watch me do this one. Got all of our line clamps in. Make sure everything clears. Plenty of clearance around it. I went ahead and bent this line off camera. Quick and easy, just out of a piece of scrap that I had laying around. Just so happened to turn out to be the right length. Lines up with the other tube there. And we'll do a union here to extend the lines all the way down, following the fuel lines to the back of the truck and into the bed where I'll have the air tank and compressors in my toolbox. So I wanted to make a quick video of all the hard lines for the air ride up here. Keep you guys updated and interested in the build in the channel. Hopefully you guys like them. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.